Welcome in.
We're back.
Episode 12, Floor 10 Sports Podcast.
We are back, absolutely.
And it's been a while. There may have been some questions on Floor 10 about why it's taken a while. There may have been some questions from my siblings, from other fans of the channel, including my friends back home, and I suppose some of Tay's friends.
Yeah.
Correct?
This is all true. We're just getting our setup good here.
If you can see, we do have a little bit new of a setup here. We decided to switch spots on the chairs.
We did. I have back problems. And,
I guess the last episode we had this mic too, so that's not much of a difference. But
we got the mic.
We added a football.
Got the football.
We got the flag like always.
Should kind of be basketball, I guess, at the moment.
Oh, true.
Football.
However, in this episode, we will be recapping the crazy 2021-2022 NFL season. I want to say, as to why we haven't released a podcast episode.
I'm honestly curious. What is the reason?
So, right before spring break, we did a recap video of Super Bowl, what was it, 57? 55. We did a recap of Super Bowl 55.
54?
I can't remember. Anywho, we did this recap. We talked about many other things, including Tom Brady's retirement. And then we were about to edit. We were about to send out. Didn't happen. Got a little busy. We both went. Teddy went to Florida. I went to Utah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we went our different ways on spring break. Since then, we've gone back. And to disappoint / let down our fan base and our YouTube subscribers, have gotten a little bit lazy. I've had a lot of schoolwork, but I've also been a little bit lazy to shoot a podcast episode. Here we are. We figured out our rooming situation next year. A little sneak peek into next year.
We're about to have a 2-story, 2-bedroom, full living room, small kitchen apartment to ourselves as sophomores because a lot of people are more concerned with being close to Panda Express, which is everybody.
Cameraman Richard Weissman.
Everybody has. I'm kind of the cameraman these days, aren't I?
Oh, that's true.
But everybody, listen. Everyone has their thing, but we're gonna have room for our own little nice setup. We're gonna have 4 TVs going in the fall, and it's gonna be great. And we're gonna be banging out tons of episodes. So
if you think that we went through this rooming process without keeping Floor 10 Sports Podcast in mind, then you are completely wrong. We could chose Watson Hall. We could chose Ernie Davis. We could chose Washington Arms. None of you guys know what that means. But we could chose a dorm room.
We chose the farm.
We chose Farm Acre Road.
What's our address?
I don't know if we can give that information. What if a subscriber comes and,
We do have a bunch of crazed fans. No, what is it? Do you remember?
1008, I believe.
108.
100.
1018. 1038.
Anyways, we kept the Floor 10 Sports Podcast studio in mind. You can't have the studio that we're going to have anywhere on campus.
Nope.
So we are doing this in light of this crazy growing podcast who we're going to be bringing in some interviews in this NFL offseason. If you think just because the NFL season is over, that we're over, you're wrong.
Out of your mind.
Out of your mind. In fact, we found a similarity in our sports teams. And I think we've mentioned this before on the podcast that we're both big Boston Celtics fans. They're on an absolute tear right now. One bad side of that. Speaking of tear.
Let me just say my piece on this. Robert Williams is, to me, if I could have 3 of our 5 starters, healthy starters, available no matter what, and the other 2 to me were a little bit more exchangeable, I'd go Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, obviously. And I think the part that might throw a couple people off, I think Robert Williams is definitely going to be on. I'd rather have him than Marcus Smart out there. He impacts everything. Once you get in the paint, you're kind of so many jumpers. That's kind of why our defense was so good, because he gets 2-3 blocks a game, but teams are just shooting jumpers because they kind of remember the last time they went in, they got their shot sent to the 15th row.
And maybe he doesn't average 25 points a game like Joel Embiid.
He averages 11 points on 80% field goal.
11 points, like Tay said the other day, 11 points are the most 11 points important 11
They come
points
at the best moments ever. He gets 5-6 baskets at the perfect time, and he doesn't miss a shot. He just dunks. 10 rebounds. He's averaging a double-double at this point.
He's huge for this team.
And leads the league, or he's second in the league in blocks.
Thoughts and prayers go out to him, but thoughts and prayers go out to banner number 18 because we will need him. And good news, Adrian Wojnarowski, after the x-ray came back, he said it could be a minor tear. It could be 4 to 6 weeks. However, that 4 to 6 weeks, if he were to rehab right away and not get surgery, he would come back pretty healthy, like 80% healthy, and then the offseason, like if it gets retorn again or whatever next year, like it could impact his future heavily.
Yeah, but
if we want to go all in this year,
we would. I know, but several weeks in reality, we're gonna have to win 2 playoff series to even have a chance at seeing him.
Yeah, end of the regular season is coming.
There's no way that we would see him in first or second round, I would think. And now I agree with you about, I thought before this happened, I was kind of okay with playing the Nets, because here's why. That would have been the best team we played. So to me, if we won that,
to get them out of the way,
if we won versus the Nets and we were the 1 seed, they were the 8, I'd be totally cool with that, because if we can't beat them, we wouldn't be winning the championship anyway. And I've expressed this to you, and those are 2 very clutch players. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are great. They've both been somewhat of a Robin. Kevin Durant was a little bit more of a Batman on the Warriors as well, but they both haven't won as the best players on their teams. So in reality, like, who's going to push who through this and win the games for them? Like, they're 2 great players, clutch players. I personally think I wouldn't mind seeing them in the first round, knocking them out, because then at that point, we're just downslide through the rest of the playoffs right into the championship.
However, downside the East, like, if the Heat can figure out with Butler and
I'm not
Haslam,
scared of the
that's
Heat
crazy.
at all.
No, but
Sixers
also
and
the
Bucks Sixers and Bucks
the defending champs. Sixers. But I do think the Nets are the second best team in the East after us. Robert Williams is a huge loss. So
it changes everything, so we're going to have to see how it plays. Our bench, our hospital unit almost beat the Raptors starters last night.
That was incredible. Payne Pritchard.
NFL,
we could go on and on.
NFL recap a little bit? How do you feel?
Well, NFL recap. We haven't recapped the Super Bowl.
I guess we never did.
Well, we did, but we didn't get that.
I never posted it.
I feel like not predictable Super Bowl, but it kind of went the way we thought it would go, where it'd be a little bit back and forth, but you never would think or at least because I bet 500 on the Rams, I never thought like the Bengals would take control of that game. I never thought they had a chance of winning. Yeah. Does that make sense? Besides their last drive where Aaron Donald strip-sacked Joe Burrow, he ended up just throwing it away. Besides that final drive, I never thought I should be scared about my $500 because I think the Bengals are going to win this. Mm-hmm. I always thought, even with OBJ going out, the Rams were the better team. The Bengals were too inexperienced. But I think that, I don't know. I just thought it was a little bit, not predictable, but the way I thought it would go. Bengals would keep it close, but never had a chance of winning.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting how it played out because everybody, obviously the offensive line was the biggest thing after he tore his ACL. He comes back, unbelievable season. He's getting hit like crazy, stays on the field, stays healthy. And Jamar Chase is kind of proven to everyone in the modern NFL, draft a wide receiver that you really is pretty much unguardable. And then if you do guard him, it's probably going to end up in a flag. So just targeting Jamar Chase. And then you have guys like, people forget, T. Higgins is great. Tyler Boyd is great. Uzama.
What's their tight end?
Uzama. Yeah. Mixon stepped up big time. He was finally a top 10 running back in the NFL. Like everyone thought he could be. And it came down and it's like, all right, well, they're kind of proving all the offensive line people a little bit wrong because the NFL is different today. However, it came down to the fact that Aaron Donald's somewhat unblockable in the first place. It did come down to, however, he didn't have time. Jamar Chase is open for a touchdown, and Ramsey
got burnt the whole game.
Ramsey was getting cooked all game. They couldn't stick with their wide receivers, but I think Joe Burrow and that team, Jamar Chase, I think they're going to break some offensive records it's fast break football. And I think that team's going to be really, really good.
I think we actually touched on the NFL, or like drafting the wide receiver and key offensive player positions in today's NFL in the last episode, which we didn't get out. But like Teddy said, this is kind of going to change Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson at LSU. They're kind of going to change in the wide receiver position. We just saw Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill get $30 million a year. Like, we're going to see wide receivers kind of take over, obviously quarterback, whole nother level. Like, leader, if you don't have a quarterback, good luck. I mean, Kirk Cousins, Vikings, you're not doing anything. Good luck. But if you have some weapons for a Deshaun Watson, for a Russell Wilson, for a Josh Allen, for a Tom Brady, whatever. Actually, Tom Brady doesn't even need weapons. But
he doesn't.
If you have receivers and weapons, and this year's wide receiver class with Drake London, I could go on and on. Chris Olave, I mean, it is stacked, this wide receiver class.
Wide receiver class is great. It's the best position in this draft class.
Jameis Williams, yeah. Next year's wide receiver class, I think it's going to be just as good.
Well, it's just because it's just the way that football is played. These wide receivers all of a sudden are some of the most important dudes on the field.
Yeah.
So we're witnessing a change where these wide receivers and even receiving backs and guys like that are going to start being picked early, especially the wide receivers, big, strong, quick dudes, kind of Odell Beckham Jr., sort of like Justin Jefferson, actually this LSU. LSU's got to be wide receiver U, but I guess Bama's up there with them. But these guys who really change everything. It's almost just as effective as running the ball when you can't stop Jamar Chase from running a slant. You can't stop.
Move on.
You can't stop these guys from running the ball. You can't. I'm saying it's the same thing as if you can't stop them from running a 10-yard hitch, it's going to be the same thing. And then eventually you're going to put 2-3 guys on him, and then you get a second guy who's pretty good. And T. Higgins is a lot better than pretty good. I sound like a Bengals fan out here. I'm not. I just think the rules of NFL are changing, and I think general managers, whoever adjusts the quickest is gonna, that's how you go from 4-12 last year to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So you got to adjust with the game.
Will the Bengals keep doing what they did last year? No, they won't. The AFC is getting better.
Teams disappeared a lot after winning the Super Bowl, sure.
And they didn't win, but they will not be what they were. We're not saying that. However, Jamar Chase, wide receiver position. It's changing. I've never, maybe it's, obviously I'm biased because I've only watched like football really closely the last 10 years of my life. But I'm just saying it's got to be more fun than watching the 85, 87, I can't remember, the Bears, great defense. It's got to be more fun than watching a defense just absolutely wreck a game. Like watching offensive star power. Breaking news.
Breaking news live on set. NFL owners approved proposal to modify overtime in the playoffs by allowing both teams to have a possession.
Josh Allen got his way.
Let's see a little bit further what that means. You can keep going on this.
I think this year's draft class.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. It's our first breaking news.
It is on set. Overtime in regular season will remain the current rules. I'll finish reading this before we'll state our opinions. Will remain the current rules where a game can end with one team never touching the ball if the team that wins the coin toss scores a touchdown on their opening possession. The overtime rule came under scrutiny because of the advantage. Okay, so the rule isn't completely specific. I don't know what happens. I guess maybe you just... I don't know what... I mean, what if I go down and score a touchdown, and then you come back and score a touchdown? Then is it sudden death? Because I don't, you know... But then they're going to say, okay, well, I only got the ball once, he got it twice. So it's never going to end. So I'm confused, number one. And my quick opinion on this, and then I'll let you say yours, is whatever the rule's going to be, I disagree with having it different in the playoffs. Maybe,
you got to keep it consistent.
Right, because the only rule that should change in the playoffs is no ties. I don't think there should be ties in general.
Oh, dude, ties are... That's why I can't watch soccer.
I just strongly disagree with not. I strongly disagree with having a different rule. Whether I like the rule or not, make it the same. It's a playoff.
Keep it consistent.
It's a playoff game, the last game of the season half the time for some of these teams.
Or every year, because there's 17 games and the urgency in the NFL, and every game is so important.
For 5, 6, 7 teams, the last game of the season is a playoff game. But the overtime rules are going to be different. And also, I'm excited for it to come out about what does it mean if both teams score a touchdown.
Anyways, I like what he said. I think it should be consistent year-round. I don't think just because one year it was under the microscope of how flawed the overtime rules were, like Josh Allen not getting a chance when they were going back and forth. I don't think 1 year you should just change the rule. Like, I hate that. And I also think defense wins championships. Defense should be important enough where if you can't get a stop, you don't deserve to win the game anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's 56-56 going into overtime. If your defense can't get a stop, you don't deserve to win the game.
Act like, and it's not necessarily the coaches or the fans' fault, the way the rules have gone.
Wait, sorry, one more thing. One thing, yes, I would have loved to see Josh Allen touch the ball one more time. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to see Patrick Mahomes
Josh Allen didn't
touch
even complain.
the ball one more. What?
Josh Allen didn't even complain, right? I remember Josh Allen's quote after the game was, he said we'd be celebrating too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess the owners and the
And then
coaches
was it Patrick Mahomes couldn't touch the ball in overtime, or was it Joe?
He did. No, Patrick Mahomes got the ball. This was at this point months ago. Patrick Mahomes did get the ball first, and they stopped him.
Then the Bengals
And then the Bengals went down and kicked the field goal to win.
And that's why they were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so it's like, people are acting like the guys on defense aren't paid. Like, I understand the thought process of getting the ball, but if you want the ball, we all know how it works. Everyone has 4 downs to get 10 yards, and normally 3 because they're going to punt. So force a field goal at the very least. Don't blame it on the rules. Look at your defense in the face and say, it's like, oh, well, you wanted a chance to go out there and score a touchdown? Unfortunately, there's a coin toss, which there's always been.
50-50.
It's 50-50. You lost the coin toss. You got to go out there and play defense. What do you think, your offense? What's the point of having a defense if it's just like, all right, let them score a touchdown. We want to try.
Yeah.
So it's like your defense is a real position group that needs to go out there and perform. And, if that hurts you, I'm sorry. I lost a game in OT.
Versus the Chiefs.
And tons of that. And it's kind of just how it is. Like, I didn't go and blame the rule. I blamed the defense. But...
we have a lot of stuff to get to in this podcast episode. Unfortunately, that took out some of our time, but it was the first breaking news.
I would say fortunately.
That we've gotten.
With an F.
Fortunately. That's right. So last episode, it was right before spring break, which was right before Tom Brady came back out of retirement. We were talking about Tom Brady's retirement, and now looking back, I'm kind of happy that we didn't edit the video and send it out because we would look like fools posting it 2 days before Tom Brady comes out of retirement. Anyways, what came to mind with me, you can give your Tom Brady spiel. This whole thing was just so weird how Ian Rappaport, well, I know for sure Adam Schefter, but Ian Rappaport, other reports, Tom Brady's dad was involved. This whole thing on how he announced retirement was so weird. Thanking the Bucs organization, not really thanking the Patriots organization whose team he was with for 20 some years. Goes to the Bucs, wins the Super Bowl. Doesn't send out a thank you to the Patriots. I thought this whole thing was too suspicious, and I didn't I thought his retirement was justified. He had done enough. The losses hurt more than the wins felt good. And he's like a family man. I get it, but it just all felt weird. So does it really shock me that he came back out of retirement the way we know Tom Brady is? I don't know.
I think one of the coolest stories ever, and I'm excited. I hope one day when Tom is actually retired, whenever that is, one of the coolest things that the night before he unretired, which probably he was inching closer and closer and closer to unretiring, Tom Brady has been every time he steps on the field, he isn't one of the best players, isn't this, isn't that. There's 22 people on the field at a time. When he's one of those 22 people, he's the most important guy. Every fan in the stadium is looking at him. So he has this competitive edge, and you come off of a playoff loss, and it hurts because you think, wow, I just trained for 9 months. We were so good. We won at 1 point 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row. Like, everything feels so good, and the NFL is so random, and it ends like that. And it's like, do I really suit up, get in the gym, whatever, again? And to me, this just shows he's close to retiring because he posted how, I'm sure, because Brady, as normally, what he would normally do after that playoff loss is maybe take a week and then be right back in the gym. So I think the fact that he didn't feel committed to doing that, he felt bad for his teammates, thinking he's not doing everything he can to help them for next year. And he sat around a little bit. And his competitive drive had to have started kicking in. He's watching quarterbacks. He knows quarterbacks who are much worse than him, which is my opinion, most everyone in the league, get these starting jobs, starting roles. And then the night before he unretires, I think this is the most savage shit ever. He goes to watch a soccer game. Ronaldo scores a hat trick, and Tom Brady. Don't you just think Brady was sitting there in the stands, 60, 70,000 people chanting Ronaldo's name, screaming. He's out there celebrating. If he hadn't already made his mind up, he's envious. Not envious. He's not mad at Ronaldo, but he's got to be thinking like that.
Right.
He knows what that feels like more than anyone, just as much as Ronaldo. Mm-hmm. And that had to kick him, and he's probably just like, I need to be out there. And I think he's totally ready. And also, his kids aren't kids anymore. It's like Colin Cowherd said this. It's, okay, he's sitting in the living room, like, oh, Giselle, you want to go get dinner? Oh, I have this photo shoot. Or one of his son, like, you want to go have a catch? Like, no, I'm going to my girlfriend's house, or I'm going to my friend's house. So then you kind of are just sitting at home. And maybe you see your kids once or twice a week, whatever, because he did wait a little bit to retire. His kids aren't kids, and that's kind of how I'm feeling about it, and that's why I feel like he came out. I think
the thing that made me very, not sad, but the thing that made me very weird about, I was in Utah on a camping.
Also, fuck Adam Schefter. Sorry, go ahead.
I was on a camping trip in Utah. Didn't have service for most of a week.
Yeah, that's just
and
funny. I remember thinking you
have
no idea.
Yeah, I had no idea. And I the next morning I go on my phone at 11 a.m. and I get a text from my girlfriend who says Tom Brady and exclamation, in all caps. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, he came out of retirement. I was like, I can't believe it just happened like that.
Mm-hmm. That's how you're finding out?
That's how I'm finding out.
And, yeah.
It kind of it was the start of this crazy-ass off-season we've had. And I would love to transition there, unless you have anything else to add about Tom Brady, which we'll probably talk about for every episode the rest of our lives.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos, the missing piece. The Russell Wilson, I always said, we talked about the Russell Wilson trade before spring break, our last episode. Mm-hmm. We were talking about the value of him.
Yeah.
And I said, the Vikings in the last 10 to 15 years, the last 5 to 10 years, have been a Russell Wilson at quarterback away or a Mike Tomlin at head coach away from taking the team that we had in 2018, where we went to the AFC Conference Championship versus the Eagles. We were a Russell Wilson away. Instead, we had Case Keenum and Mike Zimmer from winning that Super Bowl. No, I don't think we'd go on to beat the Patriots, whatever. I thought it was our best chance, and the value of him, what was it, 3 or 4 first-round picks?
It was 2 first, 2 second.
3. I think it was 3 first.
Let's triple check it.
Okay. Anyways, I said Russell Wilson is one of the only guys in NFL history to never have a losing season, up there with Tom Brady. He is worth 7 first-round picks, 6 first-round picks, 5 first-round picks, because with those draft picks, you're taking a risk to find a guy like Russell Wilson if your missing piece is the quarterback position. So why are you taking these risks with these first-round picks that you're getting, these second-round picks that you're getting? What was it?
It was 2022 first and a 2023 first.
Okay, so 2 first-round picks.
2 seconds. So they're not drafting in the first 2 rounds. Denver this is. They're not drafting the first 2 rounds for the next 2 years.
Which I love. I think you take that 10 out of 10. I think 4 or 5 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're trying to play catch-up. You're trying to find a guy like a Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett in a shitty quarterback draft class.
Yeah, I don't think you go quarterback this year, but that's
college
a whole different
class.
talk.
And, like, you're just trying to find that guy for the next 4 or 5 years when you have a guy who's never had a losing season. You can't count last season because he was injured most of the year. Whatever, Geno Smith. So a guy like Russell Wilson to the Broncos is who they needed. Giving up Noah Fant, I thought, was the most important part. It wasn't the picks. It was Noah Fant that kind of, I think, will hurt them long term, even though they have a Jerry Jeudy, a Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton. They have guys that Javonte Williams, the running back, Melvin Gordon, like they have pieces. Their defense with Patrick Surtain, who they drafted last year, who's an absolute beast at cornerback. They have other pieces on the defense. I'm forgetting the guy, Bradley Chubb, on their line. I think that team was a Russell Wilson away, especially to compete in the AFC West. You're playing Patrick Mahomes. You're playing Derek Carr with Devontae Adams now. You're playing Justin Herbert two times a year. How are you going to compete with a Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater? You saw it last year and the last 3 years. You're not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's freaking awesome that the Broncos got him. Do I wish the Vikings would have gotten him? Yeah. That's my spiel on Russell Wilson.
The AFC West is absolutely absurd.
It's up there with the Atlantic Division of the Eastern Conference.
In the NBA. I think those teams are kind of all just playing catch-up with each other at this point. It's a domino effect of everyone was trying to get on the Chiefs level, and then the other teams in that division. Then the Raiders became really, really good, and then the Broncos started to get pretty good, and then the Chargers, right? So all these teams are kind of getting a piece, and then somebody counters it so that they can defend what they just got, and then somebody else gets a new piece, and then somebody else tries to counter it. So now it's just this snowball effect where everyone's signing everyone to try to keep up with each other. Now Chiefs are Tyreek Hill-less, which I personally think that I was wording up confusion. I personally think Tyreek Hill is a huge difference maker.